Welcome to the EHS Radio Show on Siemens FM. I'm your host, David Walker. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us today. 15 years on the job. And I say decades of progress, all led by our guest today. Folks, sit back, relax, and enjoy this special edition of the EHS Radio Show and the head of Siemens EHS around the world, Dr. Ralf Franke. Ralf, thank you very much for coming back to the show. This will be your second time on the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Dave. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and also to the audience. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I'm so glad we're doing this. So let's get to the meat of this right here. I'm going to tell you, when you came to Siemens, and I remember when you did, 15 years ago, I remember when you came. I remember sitting back and thinking to myself, what the heck is this guy talking about? He's talking about mental health. He's talking about getting management involved. He's talking about not being a safety cop. He's talking about all this stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, hey, we're safety people. But Ralf, I'm going to tell you, I wish I had the vision then that we do now, because I am a true believer in your agenda. And I know it's working. And I am so proud to have been a part of it. So tell our listening audience, what was your first impression when you came on board? And based on that impression, how you set out to build this program within Siemens?
Yeah, I mean, looking back and remembering what happened creates let's phrase it that way. My first impression was I had really big question marks. When I arrived at Siemens, and it was February 2nd, 2009, I arrived at the headquarters at Wittelsbacher Platz in Munich. I was sitting there with Simone, my assistant, in an empty office. Nobody was there welcoming me. There was no predecessor organization department, nobody saying hello to me. So there was nothing. And I was just sitting there in the office looking at Simone and saying, now, what's up? You cannot imagine that. So,
wow.
So, I mean, the first time I spent was meeting people, and getting to know people, understanding Siemens. And then after a certain while, I was starting to set up a global EHS organization. And I mean, my first task given by Professor Rusvom, who was the HR head, managing board those days, he said he wanted to set up a global health management organization. So this was the reason why I was hired. But after, let's say, 1 or 2 months, it was in end of March, April, they got the idea in the managing board to set up EHS globally. So then I started to set up the organization, and we went live July 1st, 2009. So imagine, between April and July, only 3 months to set up a global organization. Incredible. Wow. So yes. Today, I think it wouldn't be possible today. No. So then I started to fix the basics, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, because from scratch, you need to start with the basics. Yeah, and we set up the principles. We made management systems mandatory. We started with the reporting processes and so on. And what was for me really very important, and also somehow decisive for the success of our journey, was to create a community. So we set up conferences on, in those days, meta level, meta cluster level, regional level. Yeah. So I can remember the first time when I went to Fort Lauderdale to the US conference.
Oh yeah, that's where we met.
This was really important to bring people together. To create a team spirit, to get, a common understanding why we are working for EHS, where we want to go to, and also to create, let's say, a psychological safe environment so that people can exchange. So this was very important. And then in the second step, creating a good community was to win the managers.
Correct.
And I can tell you, this was not easy. This was really not easy. And especially in 2000, I think it was 2010, because I didn't believe the numbers. So we had only, only 2-3 fatalities reported per year, only in Europe or Germany mainly. And I was asking myself, what about the countries, like the high risk countries like India, Middle East, Africa, China, and so on. And then I hired PricewaterhouseCoopers to check the figures. And it turned out that we had at least 19.
Wow.
19 fatalities. And here I set up task forces in those regions, in Middle East, in China, in India, to fix the issues there, to fix the basics, so to speak.
Right.
And then after doing that, after let's say another 2 years, we started with our maturity program, zero harm culture, Healthy at Siemens, you know them, eco-efficiency, the environmental program. So I think here the journey was kind of starting and step by step improving over the years. Also, maybe one element was, and this goes deep to my heart, is the mental well-being topic. And it's not only to think about the physical stress, strains, the physical health of people, but also the mental health and well-being of people. And here at the beginning, there was no awareness and no commitment.
Nothing.
I can remember. I mean, one of the top managers told me at Siemens, we do not have psycho. If somebody has psycho, you should go to the doctor.
Yeah. They didn't know. See, you had the vision. And you were way ahead of your time, Ralf.
And then I set up a department called Psychosocial Health and Wellbeing. And in those days, asked Uli Birner, our psychologist in those days, and say, hey, let's get started.
Yeah. You were way ahead of your time, I promise you. You really were, because it is, you started then what the world has got to now, as far as recognizing how important it was. And it is.
Absolutely. I mean, we had also different other examples where we were somehow ahead of time. So mental well-being was one of them, and we learned it by heart, so to speak, during the pandemic, that this is an important topic. Also, when I can remember when I was at the managing board presenting them in 2012, the decarbonization program, which we developed.
Right.
And it was thrown out by saying, hey, as long as we have brown coal customers, we don't want to talk about CO2 in 2012. Right. Yeah. In 2018, I was with Klaus at the managing board proposing that we should do something, pilots around circular economy. It's not a business case. But nowadays, everybody wants to have a circular economy program, want to make our products more sustainable. We are talking about decarbonization. We are talking about mental well-being. So the time is now to execute what we developed years before.
And it's what a company is based upon when they're viewed upon for people that want to work for you and customers that want to buy from you and people that want your services. They want a sustainable, eco-friendly, worker health friendly company, not only safe. So you were so far ahead of your time, and I like I said, I'm drinking from the Kool-Aid. I believe in the program. I wish I'd have seen it then. So if you look back, so over the 15 years, for me, the defining moment, Ralf, was zero harm culture. ZHC was the innovative, best rolled out, executed environmental health and safety program that I had ever been a part of at Siemens because it stuck and people believed it and they believed in the principles. For you, what do you believe, going back, what do you think was the defining moment where you sat in your office and you said, yeah, on a global platform, this whole thing is going to work?
I think there is not the only one. There are several ones. The first one I can tell you was when I set up the global organization. I said I want to have the EHS officers mandatory in the business, in the countries, direct reports to the CEOs. And then I got a lot of resistance from the CEOs. Why do I need an EHS officer? I didn't have that before, and it worked also pretty well. Why I should nominate somebody? And there was really pretty high resistance.
Yeah.
And then Professor Russwurm, who was the head of HR globally, a managing board member who hired me, he was backing me up. He was supporting me, and he gave several calls to several CEOs and explained them what to do.
Yeah.
And this was really great. I mean, it was really fantastic. And therefore, I mean, at the first instance, we got this done. Yeah. But honestly, the commitment and the awareness of certain CEOs was not there. It was like, if you want to transfer German safety standards to my country, I'm no longer competitive, and these kind of things.
Yeah.
And this is the second decisive, groundbreaking moment. I made them personally responsible for fatalities and let them in person report to the managing board when something happened in their area of responsibility, and let them explain what happened, why it happened, and what they intend to do to avoid this again, that it's happening
I remember
again.
That.
And then after first time, people reporting to the management, they called me, can you help me, please? I need a better officer. I need this and that, and that created really a shift in the mindsets of certain people, and then finally the pandemic, where we did a fantastic job together, our global colleagues and my corporate team, and we managed the pandemic in a fantastic way, and that created also very high recognition and appreciation throughout the entire organization. And so therefore, these are the three decisive moments in my career.
They're groundbreaking, and I'm glad I've been a part of all of those. You know, if you think back, to me, one of the greatest things that I think you brought to Siemens is that I've had a lot of conversations with you, and I'm so fortunate that I consider you and I really great work colleagues, and we always have a great time when we get together talking and just visiting about things outside of work. But I always respect the fact that you have the vision and the wherewithal that everything doesn't work the same around every place in the world. We all have the same focus. Keep everybody safe. Make sure everybody is comfortable, has a great work environment. We protect the environment. And you recognize that what works in Pakistan doesn't always work in Houston, Texas. But we all have the same goal. I mean, that to me, that was so inspirational for me, because it's not just one blanket sentence. It's how we live it. But if you had to think back over the 15 years, professionally, not personally, what do you believe is your greatest achievement so far within Siemens on a professional standpoint?
I think compared to the year where we started and now, that EHS is known by everyone at Siemens. It's a value. It's a brand. So I don't need to explain somebody or anybody here in the organization what EHS is all about. So I think that health and safety and also the environmental protection, that's a value. And we are known, perceived as a brand, so to speak. And the outcome of being a value in an organization, so that you do not need to convince people that protecting the environment and taking care of the health and safety of people is something what you need to convince somebody. So the outcome is that I would say we saved a lot of lives. We saved many lives. Yeah. When I said we had 19 fatalities at the beginning, at least, which we knew, and now unfortunately till 2 in the last year, and I'm still striving for 0.
Right.
And I hope until my retirement I will reach that. I will that in a couple of years I will leave the company with 0 per year. So this is my target.
I think that's wonderful. And what you said is so true. I look at that as that because of what you've done and the programs, environmental health and safety has a seat at the table now. When our executives, when our heads of our countries, when our heads of our businesses, environmental health and safety has a plate at the table. They're not just sitting back at the kiddie table in a back room. And that's a great attribute to what you've done. So looking forward, because you always have to look forward. And I always enjoy the meetings we have where you talk about the visions and the targets and where we want to go, because it's not just something we set up to do in 30 days. It's an overall program. So what is your vision for Siemens for the next 15 years with EHS as the focus?
I mean, as I said, to have 0 fatalities and also to have sustainable and environmental friendly performance of Siemens and products that we can be the, let's say, competitive edge because of being more environmental friendly than the competitors. And to get there, I would like to prepare our organization for the future with our program EHS 2030, where I say, hey, we need to become more digital. We need to become more data driven. We need to get closer on the health and safety part with P&O, because it's about people, and we cannot distinguish between P&O and EHS. So it's a collaborative approach, and the same applies also on the environmental side with sustainability and also SRE, that we get closer to them to create more effective impact for the organization. So that is my personal goal for the next years to come. I don't think that it will be 15 years, but
I think it's a good vision. Yeah, but look how fast this 15 went. It just flew by. I mean, it just flew by. Ralf, thank you. I just always enjoy spending time with you and talking to you, and it's something I always look forward to. And when I look on the agenda and we're both at the same conference, or we both are going to be in the same area, and I get a chance to sit down with you, it's always something that makes me happy to think about, because I enjoy your company so much. So thank you for spending the time today and talking to us about where it started, how it began, and where it's headed. And for me personally, thank you for the 15 years. It's flown by, and it's been a great journey so far.
Thank you very much, Dave, for the interview, and also thank you very much for helping me, together with all the folks, the colleagues worldwide, to create this fantastic journey. So it's a collaborative approach. It's not me, it's us. And thank you very much for that. And I'm really proud and happy to be part of this team, of this great team.
Well, it is. It's a great team, and you've done a great job, and you've got great people in place, and you've put the right pegs in the right holes, and it's fantastic. Thanks, Ralf. So,
thanks, Dave. Stay healthy and safe.
You too.
And it's fantastic to see you always and see your bird growing.
Yeah. Well, it's just getting older. It's getting longer still.
Somehow, yeah.
Well, folks, you've been listening to the EHS Radio Show on Siemens FM. So please take the time to invite your friends to subscribe to the show, as you already have, and do not hesitate to provide feedback to any of us. And you can send your questions or comments to me at david.w.walker@siemens.com. Be kind to everyone, and for heaven's sakes, be safe.
Music and sound effects from pixabay.com. Music by Anastasia Kerr, titled Rock and Roll.